so that Zimbabwe can become a member of the family of nations again. We are going around the world, re-engaging the world, so that we can change the narrative of our country. The narrative which is very crucial is the economic narrative. You may have been here, and you are here for different reasons. Some of you, it was because you were highly skilled. And this is what anyway, I will assume. Some of you were highly skilled and your skills were in demand internationally. And some of you probably, as a result of certain economic fundamentals which could not balance off, you then decided to come into this territory. But whichever reason has brought you here, the fundamental reason which is key and very important is that you are a Zimbabwean. And while we are going around the world, it has been a precedent which has been set by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, President Mnangagwa, that we must take care and we must look after and we must mobilize our people out in the diaspora. One, so that you understand what is really going on in your country. Secondly, so that you can feel part and parcel as stakeholders of your nation. And thirdly, so that you can also be part and parcel of the rebuilding of your country. It is not the responsibility of the current administration to rebuild the nation. It is the responsibility of all Zimbabweans. And I said on the 18th of April here, when we celebrated our Independence Day, I actually commended the role which our Zimbabweans who are in the diaspora are playing through the remittances of funds which are going back into the country to educate our own, to look after the health of our own, and even to basically develop the economy of Zimbabwe. But having done that, I'm saying that we are going around. So it was important that we should take this opportunity in reality to address and meet, not really to address, is to interact with yourselves and discuss. And therefore this is going to be more of an interactive process rather than an address. It's not, I prefer to deal with the issues which you have. But let me give the abstract. A new era in our country was born. And that era was born out of the people's spontaneous, I call it a spontaneous demand for change for the better. On the 18th of November 2017, which gave birth to a new head of state, President E.D. Mnangagwa, who was sworn into office on the 24th of November 2017. I know you have read and you have gone through what is called the modern battlefield of the social media. And you have done everything, and you are probably well informed about what transpired. But you are hearing it from the horse's mouth. But I will elaborate later. All I can say is that there is a new dispensation now in Zimbabwe. We are more worried about the future. And we have said, and His Excellency the President has said on the first day of his inauguration, let the bygones be bygones. We don't want to be prisoners of our past, but let us look at the future of the country. And the future of the country is nothing else but the economic interests of the nation. So, since the 24th of November, all the people of Zimbabwe have expectations, obviously for a better future. But all the races of Zimbabwe demanded change. It was a mixed race. It was old and the young, the educated and the uneducated, or the less educated. I have to be very careful as a diplomat. The white and the darkened skin and all the other different races, it was a total combination of everybody who calls himself a Zimbabwean, who peacefully, and I'm saying peacefully because in terms of the crime rate throughout from the early 60s, that day experienced the lowest crime rate without police force on the streets. Wow. And the people of Zimbabwe, I know it was not only in Zimbabwe. I know it was also in Kensington, in whatever, and all other areas here in London. And it was harmoniously conducted. And I would like to congratulate the people of Zimbabwe for that. The armed forces merely assured peace throughout the country. And it is the people who caused the change. So whatever dissertations you are writing about, and thesis, that's the conclusion. So economic and political refocus in Zimbabwe is really translating it into a destination for investment. As the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, particularly international trade, our responsibility is to manage the external environment. And as we manage the external environment, we must project foreign policy of a country, of Zimbabwe. But foreign policy of any nation is an extension of a country's domestic policy. And so it was critical that we had to naturally ensure that a number of reforms which were immediate had to be undertaken in order to attract FDI into the country. So all we are saying is all are welcome to protected economic activities in our country. And we are saying we are now a nation of policy consistency. We are now a nation of which respects the bilateral and investment protection agreements. And we are saying we are now a nation which embraces particularly our own people coming back to Zimbabwe, not just to be employees, but to invest in Zimbabwe. Our constitution basically permits, and I aware it permits dual citizenship. But when it does, maybe you claim hands to LA. It's important that there should be appropriate realignment of laws to ensure that the necessary provisions of the Constitution then can be effected. And these are issues, it's a lot of work which we are undertaking at the moment. And I can assure you that the Zimbabwe government will not contribute to the rendering of statelessness status for any bona fide suit. So the young Zimbabweans who are in London, in UK, they are still Zimbabweans. And I'm aware that somebody was asked a question and said, we appreciate when you talk about the ease of doing business, but how about the ease of being a Zimbabwean? And it was a matter which we heard, and we heard clearly, because we listen very much. The Constitution further guarantees the right to vote to citizens who reside outside our borders. Don't clap hands this time. But unfortunately, what the Constitution goes further to say is that the current election, which is, for example, forthcoming, is polling station based. Secondly, it is constituency based. And thirdly, somebody added, in fact, another clause when I was in the States, that it further stipulates that the president can proclaim an election within Zimbabwe. So, what it means basically is that while there is that provision for you to vote, and it is actually the desire of the current administration to ensure that you vote. But naturally there are these impediments. And I know that specifically even within the mission itself here, it's only the ambassador and his wife. Otherwise, if you have registered, you are allowed to come. If you have not registered, come and register. And if you have not registered, if you have registered, come home and vote on the necessary day. It's a sacrifice for one's country. I've had you're limiting my freedom. Well, it's important that you should exercise and sacrifice and support this watershed election which is forthcoming. But anyway, the electoral law is basically currently under amendment so that it can be compliant with the Constitution. And already the outreach voter registration program which was taking place in Zimbabwe came to an end. And now, although you can still register, but the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission is busy mapping, remapping, and trying to produce the draft voters' roll so that it can be subjected to an inspection, and after an inspection it is corrected. When it's corrected, then there can be a proclamation. But about the elections themselves, it is the desire and in fact the determination of the current dispensation that we should have free, fair, transparent and credible elections. And I'm saying free, fair, transparent and credible elections. First and foremost, these elections must satisfy the people of Zimbabwe. Yes. So, whilst they are regional, continental benchmarks, and we are saying everybody must come and observe, but we are saying everybody must come and observe the Zimbabwean elections which are going to be compliant to the Constitution of Zimbabwe. Yes, we are going to be benchmarking that with the regional guidelines and the continental guidelines, so that at least there is a basis upon which all those who are invited to come and observe the elections can come and observe, but using the Constitution of Zimbabwe and using the satisfaction of the Zimbabweans, and of course benchmarking that with the guidelines of SADC and the African Union. We are saying the elections are going to be transparent because we are saying, please, those who want to come and observe our elections, come. And coincidentally, I've been here on the sidelines of the Commonwealth. And I was invited by my counterparts, Honourable Boris Johnson, whom I had a session with yesterday. And I can tell you it was a superb session. it basically signified the entry of Zimbabwe into the family of nations. And as a consequence of that, I also extended, in fact, we had already extended an invitation to the Commonwealth to even come and observe our elections. So there are other organizations which we have invited as well, and other countries in different parts of the world. But what we are saying is, come and assist us in ensuring that the election achieves what we want as the people of Zimbabwe. And then we can then be judged to have satisfied them in that regard. At home, His Excellency the President, you are aware that he had actually penciled to hold meetings with all the political stakeholders. But unfortunately, initially he thought there were about 15 parties. So the room which he had prepared was smaller. And only to realize that there were 128 now. All I can say is, yes, it may be an expensive way of desiring to run an election, but it expresses one thing, that there is an element of freedom in the country. It doesn't matter even if you are sleeping and you dream being a president. You can wake up and having a political party. That's the amount of freedom which is there in Zimbabwe. No one is banned, and our laws do not bar that. So, but the whole purpose of him meeting, is still going to meet them, is to ensure that there is a code of conduct between the stakeholders. And that code of conduct is particularly about violence, both intra or inter-party violence. We want to introduce in Zimbabwe what we call civil politics. Why should political contestation overshadow national interests? We are Zimbabweans. The whole world recognizes us as having gone to school. But why should we behave differently from our way we were educated? So this is the desire of the new dispensation. We want to introduce new kind of politics in Zimbabwe. And I've seen some people saying, writing and they're saying, until there's a voters' roll which is appropriate, there are not going to be free and fair elections. And I'm saying no. It probably is a lack of understanding of the whole process. The process which we've adopted, previously we had challenges in the voters' roll issues. And we thought that it was appropriate to introduce the BVR system to solve this. Surely if a computer system is going to be a problem as well, then I don't know what technology is all about. But of course, I'm not saying we've never used the BVR system. We don't know the problems which come with it. but we expect that it is going to be a clear way of eliminating problems and issues surrounding the aspects of the voters' roll. And after that, that voters' roll is going to be published and it is going to be inspected, and it's constitutionally demanded that it must be inspected by the people. So it's only that maybe we have not communicated effectively for people to understand our own processes which are taking place. So when that happens, and we believe that when there is commitment to no violence and there is civil politics, and then people are going to exercise their right to vote, and the people are free to campaign. In fact, when I was reading the media of late, in fact, it's like there's so far there are few political parties which are campaigning, isn't it? So is there no freedom of the press? Everybody is allowed to campaign. Everybody is going to freely cast his vote. Fundamentally, those are the issues. Then it will emerge the people's choice. And that people's choice will be accepted by everyone. And it must be accepted by everyone. And as I said earlier on, it's you, the diasporians, who have kept us going for a very long time, probably for a period of nearly 2 decades. Even over and above the skills you exported here. We know that you have now gained a lot of experience in different sectors in which you are, and these are now the skills which we also now want back home. We need the doctors, we need the lawyers, we need the business people, we need the financial people, we need the pastors, we need